Welcome to Share Talk, the only podcast where investors come first.
Hello and welcome to the Sunday Roast. It is not time to sell in May for some people, but maybe for others it is. Bank holiday as well, so a bit quieter on the markets perhaps to the end of this week. But we've got our usual guests to sum it all up, Phil Carroll, Arthur and Kevin Hornsby. And we start off as usual with Phil. How are you today, Phil?
Good afternoon, Zach. Yeah, very good. It's been an interesting week on the markets. There's been a very low volume week on most of the stocks. Talked about Caerus Minerals last week, as you know, which had a good start to the week, shifted up to about 20 pence, and sat and consolidated around the 17p mark. So that's one to keep an eye on. So that's one that I'm just going to continue to build a position in over the next few weeks. There was also another one of mine I tipped a couple of weeks ago, this Forbes Ventures. Forbes Ventures are effectively, they're a litigation securitization company who are working on a couple of projects out in Malta at the moment. And there was somebody posted a screenshot from the Maltese FSA, the Financial Services Authority out there, saying that the Forbes Ventures Sell 1 license had just been authorized. So that caused about a 50% increase in the stock towards the middle of the day. So that was a nice surprise. There's been a few that have been concerned. Ramblers continue to move well this week, and obviously off the back of the increase in the all-time high in copper prices. So that's been an interesting one. And then one of our favorites, Valereum blockchain, has had an excellent week as well, sort of consolidated around the 30 pence mark. So yeah, all in all, it's been a very interesting week for me.
And speaking of Valereum blockchain, we always like to be well informed on this program and try and get things straight from the horse's mouth. So here's the horse, and he's got a mouth as well. David Lenigas. Hi today, David.
Hi, Zach. I'm not really the horse's mouth. I'm just a shareholder.
That ruins the whole. I'm trying to be Mr. Showbiz here, so that obviously failed dismally.
So you've got to be careful from a regulatory perspective, because I don't run the company. I'm just a very, very keen shareholder.
Yeah. No, I think that's it kind of suits you, doesn't it?
Well, you can. Yeah, the horse's mouth. You can talk to me about NQ as if I'm the chairman director and stuff, but I've certainly got my own views on Valereum and why I'm excited about it. And I wasn't aware that the Sunday Roast existed, so it's nice to be here. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, well, there's no food, unfortunately, because we can't afford that yet. But we're hoping that with the profits that we might get one day, we can have a slap up live. Well, we can't meet anyway, so there's no point in having any arrangements like that. But as far as Valereum is concerned, what attracted you to be a shareholder in that company?
Vinay Gupta. Look, I know Richard Poulden reasonably well. We've known each other for a long time. Blockchain was something I didn't understand, and NFTs and Bitcoin mining much. I mean, I read the paper like everybody else and always intrigued and curious. I did actually buy a Bitcoin once at a vending machine in San Remo in Italy. I bought a part of a Bitcoin when Bitcoin was $8,300, and you can go to vending machines in Italy and actually buy them. So I did actually buy one, and I've still got it. The problem is I've lost the card.
It's a classic,
so I've sort of been watching it. I've been sort of watching it from there, because one of the concepts for this sort of San Remo play that we were looking at was to convert one of the greenhouses, grow medical cannabis in the top, and we built a concrete bunker to put a server farm down there to actually mine Bitcoin and use the heat that's generated from the servers to heat the greenhouse to grow the medical cannabis, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, and they patented that concept. So I thought it was pretty nifty idea. But, that's sort of when I sort of first started learning about Bitcoin. And on the Valereum front, I've been involved in many discussions with Vinay Gupta in the last month in particular. And the level of knowledge that he has imparted in the many discussions I've had, I'm sort of half dangerous with the knowledge of how NFTs work and the Ethereum blockchain and Bitcoin and the whole concept of where this is going, and the whole concept of DeFi and NFTs is alive, and I don't think you can kill it. And I think it's a big ground shift change for the way global banking and finance is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. And Richard had Upper Thames and said, I'm going to work with this. He's known Vinay Gupta, as you know, Zach, for a long time. he helped Vinay restructure his Materium, which is his asset passport, which he's doing big stuff with William Shatner and many other people around the world. And to have Vinay Gupta working with Richard on Valereum, I think is just early days for a tree growing and bearing a lot of fruit.
I never quite caught on to what Vinay did with Ethereum. Was he one of the founders? Was he the founder? I mean, how did that work? What was his role with that?
Vinay was one of the original shareholders, but he wasn't the big shareholder, and he was technically the architect that put the whole platform together and the architect that launched Ethereum as a blockchain technology. And he consults to many governments around the world on the blockchain. So, yeah, and one day we might all try and understand it, but probably never will.
And in terms of what Valereum can do in the financial markets, could you just explain that? Because I think you were doing that very well offline, but I sort of missed it, and obviously everybody else has missed it too.
Well, there's two aspects to what Valereum's trying to do, as I gather, and one is people I don't think understand NFTs properly yet. So one of the strings to Valereum's bow is to do something that the market does understand, which is coin mining. The only company that's actually mining coin in the London exchange at the moment is Argo Blockchain. The FCA brought in some new rules for people mining Bitcoin or other coins that they needed to comply with from December last year. Nobody did it. So really the field is limited on who in the London market, the trades in the London market can actually do that. The benefit that Valereum has is it's Gibraltar regulated and registered, and they're Bitcoin or coin mining friendly, and Valereum is regulated by their Bitcoin division. So it gives Valereum the opportunity to go and build a coin mining division. And I was very pleased to see that Valereum has announced that they're going to be installing their first miners in the United States. And I think that's going to tie in pretty well with their concept of dual listing on the OTCQB. And if you look at things like, KR1, when they got their pink sheet listing, and they're still only pinks, whereas Valereum's going for OTCQB, which is the higher end of the market, it had a really big impact on KR1. And speaking to some of the market makers in America, I say to them, I say, guys, why are the Americans interested in UK blockchain and Bitcoin stocks? And their answer is, we think that the UK market doesn't understand the real value of this. So there's a very big retail contingent in the US that is seeking out global investments that are outside the US that they see are just undervalued, which is why a lot of the horsepower and things like KR1, Coincilium, Argo Blockchain are principally driven by US trading.
So Lenigas, what kind of positions are you playing? Is this rapid trading you're doing? Because it's very binary stuff, or are you taking long, short positions on this?
Well, I don't take short positions. I only buy and go long, and I never trade with margin. So, I participated in the original financing to help put it together. So, I started off with 7 million shares, which I think is about 11% of the company, and I continue to buy. So I haven't added it all up now, but I mean, I must be getting pretty close to 10 million pieces of paper now. I buy on weakness. I just see this thing going to the stratosphere, particularly if they can pull off the concept of creating an NFT that moves cryptocurrency money into the real world equities, listed debt, and listed derivatives to effectively create a 24/7 global crypto stock exchange.
What sort of risk strategy do you apply to it? Because it's so binary with like the ARBs. I mean, as an investor and I hold a lot of positions.
ARB's only mining Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
They're not doing NFTs, they're just mining Bitcoin. So if I look at what Valereum's doing, they're mining coin, and everyone goes, oh, you've only got 1.6 petahash. That's not a lot. But, the technology changes so quickly with respect to, coin miners, that even the stuff that Argo put in a year ago is already becoming obsolete, which is why they're building the facility in Texas with the new S19 machines. But, the delivery time on S19 machines is anything from 8 to 12 months these days because there's such demand. Argo are doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
But all they do is mine Bitcoin. And Valereum has got a different policy, and I'm glad they're doing their first one in the US. First of all, you need to test that you can actually do it as a regulated entity. So the next one I hope will be in the United States, but there, Middle East, Kazakhstan, where a lot of mining is done because a lot of the redundant machines from China moved to Kazakhstan, China, and to have a concept of diversified mining for multiple coins, I think spreads the risk, and I think that's their model, and I like that one. But the really big play for me is where they're working with Vinay on the whole concept of NFTs.
Yeah, it's not just a one-trick pony, basically, Albert.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. It's just, for me, tailing of the price of the Bitcoin, irrelevant of the fundamentals of revenues, net profit margins, and all of that. As an investor buying a stock on the exchange, it's so binary. I find it hard to build a big position in something that can just evaporate or explode. It's kind of a bit risk-based for me, but I mean, it's very fascinating, and I can see the world evolving into this kind of NFT zone. And we were talking about it last week, where you could buy a virtual Buckingham Palace via an NFT, and in World Earth 2 or whatever, and I can see it happening. But as an investor, I just wondered what sort of strategies you use as, mitigating the risk. Are you positioning over stocks and longs and a little bit in the old, that kind of arena, or that's the kind of understanding I was trying to get?
Yeah, Arthur, look, I look at all that sort of stuff as well. As I said, I'm an investor in this, and I like owning more and more of it. If this thing was market capped at 200-300 million, like KR1 or some of the others that are floating around, and you've got Argo up around $1 billion, and we all know Argo's revenue numbers, etc., and they're very exposed to just one coin in one country. So, but it's not like Valereum has a market cap of 100, 200, 300 million. It's got a market cap of 20. And to go dual listing in the United States, that's where the appetite is. And it's only got 64 million shares on issue. And Richard, I know, has told Zach, because Zach and I speak about it, that he doesn't want to do financings to have hundreds of millions of shares on issue. The Americans don't like structures that have got hundreds of millions of shares on issue. So I think he's got a very good situation that he's working on. But to me, the real upside here is, what is he going to do with Materium and Vinay? And I think, when that all starts coming out, when they put all those plans together, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of that's being held back until after the US OTCQB listing, because London doesn't understand who Vinay Gupta is, but America does.
Yeah.
And if Richard was smart, then he would be working with Vinay on how best do I sort of leverage what Vinay's been trying to achieve with his Materium asset passport wallet, and what Richard wants to do with Vinay with Valereum. It's only market capped at 20 million quid. That's what I like about it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. I always love a tiny cap with big potential in the pipeline. So thanks.
I think it's got a lot more upside than downside.
Now, I just wanted to ask David about NQ Minerals, because that's, to me, it seems to be like a fully fledged gold miner, gold producer, metals producer, and it's sort of hidden away. And I suppose that one of the things about the Sunday roast is we like to try and shine a light on hidden gems, if we can, if we hope they are gems. Tell us about the NQ story and where you are with that, David.
Look, NQ has been pretty much unloved in the market because it's been Aquis. And we all know that Aquis is a very difficult place for people to trade. I mean, none of my institutional people, and I've done deals, big deals with institutions with some of the things I've done in the past, none of them are allowed to touch Aquis. Which is why, as the chairman of NQ, when I joined the board, a year and a bit ago, I said, okay, let me help you get our big Helier operations profitable, and they're running very profitably. I mean, at the Helier operations, we just announced, revenue for the quarter, top line of around about $20 million. I think it was $18 million for the quarter, which was probably one of our best quarters, and net income, punching around about $5 million for the quarter. We would expect to see revenue and net income rise gradually over the year, and it's a very robust long life operation. So that was one of my objectives. The second objective was to help the company restructure its debt, because there was a lot of debt raised to start the Helier operations and buy into the Beaconsfield gold mine, which should be coming into production later this year. And the third, and we did that we started working on that when we redid $55 million worth of refinancing with ING around the Helier debt package. And we're now working with a number of very large banks, particularly in the US, to restructure the balance of that debt. And the third objective I had was to move NQ to a tier 1 stock exchange. And we announced some months ago that we'd started the work with the FCA to look at moving our reporting exchange from Aquis to the LSE main board. So that work is ongoing. We've got lawyers, we've got the whole team working on it. That work is progressing reasonably well. And fingers crossed, I'd like to see NQ graduate, being a different word, probably the word I'd like to use, graduate to the LSE in the next month or two. The other thing that we've managed to achieve with NQ is that we've got preliminary clearance from the LSE to have what they call the Green Economy Mark. And the Green Economy Mark is an initiative from the London Stock Exchange that says that you qualify for green fund investment, because all of the work we do at NQ is mining of contaminated product in a way that is sustainable and good for the earth. So we passed all those tests. So if and when we move to the London Stock Exchange, hopefully within the next month or two, we will be one of the few companies that would have the green leaf symbol next to our ticker symbol. And I think that's, there's a lot of green money looking for homes. So that's been a year and a half of my life. I've resigned from a lot of boards that I was on to focus on NQ, because I think it's got great assets. And I think when it moves to the main board, there's probably going to be quite a significant re-rate.
Yeah. There's a lot of stocks, David, that are moving from obviously Aquis to try and get it onto the official list because of the liquidity of the whole market. And there's a couple at the moment that are in the process that I'm invested in. Can you tell us, is NQ based in Tasmania in Australia?
It's a London company at the moment, London domiciled, but our operations are in Tasmania. Helier is in northern Tasmania, and the Beaconsfield gold mine is about 150 kilometres to the west of Beaconsfield. Yeah, northern Tasmania.
Yeah, I saw some results recently that the gold at surface, it looked like there was some good gold grams per tonne on the results at surface.
Yeah, no, that's the Beaconsfield thing. Beaconsfield's got a fully fledged mining lease. There's 500,000 ounces at a third of an ounce still left on the resources, and the ore body's open.
Yeah.
And what we're looking for, that's about a 12 to 18 month task to sink a new decline or new tunnel from surface down to connect with the mine workings at about 400 vertical meters to get into the high grade, resources and reserves. So what we're looking for is, do we have surface dirt available that we can put into the plant that will allow us to start gold production in a profitable sense, that we're actually making good money whilst the decline goes down to get into the long-term, viability of the mining operation. And we've found quite a lot of high-grade dirt sitting at surface. We're actually trucking a lot of dirt to the plant at the moment. I think we've got about 8 trucks working 20 day shifts, so basically 12 hours a day, trucking dirt from the environments of Beaconsfield to the plant, to the processing plant, in readiness for when the plant restarts. Yeah. And the plan is to bring at least 100,000 tonnes of circa 3 to 4 gram dirt sitting at the plant. So when we start the plant up, we're making money very quickly. And there appears to be a lot of potential at surface at Beaconsfield that was never looked at before.
Yeah.
If you look at the average grade of Beaconsfield, it's a half-ounce gold mine. That's very, very, very rich. I mean, I ran the Emperor gold mine in Fiji, and Fiji is the longest-running continuous gold mine in the Southern Hemisphere's history. Started in 1938, and it's still operating today. And the reason why that is because it's got good grade. The average grade's 11 grams. The average grade of Beaconsfield's 15. 15-gram ore bodies don't go broke.
No, definitely not. That leads us, gold being the subject, I think leads us on to our next special guest, Siam Kidd, who's very much got a background in the precious metals. I'll let him tell you all about that. He's also the CEO and founder of the Wealth Action Plan, and also Siam Kidd, the realistic trader. Welcome, Siam.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No worries. Do you want to add anything on the hold? Obviously, you've got David there with his gold mine and his blockchain and all his crypto. Anything to add? I know they're sort of two of your hot subjects.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a nobody. I was just a bullion dealer a long time ago, but I just wanted to carry on with the NFT thread because I agree with David. There's a massive ground shift here that's happening, which the public are grossly, blissfully unaware of, and a lot of pretty smart people. I've got a bunch of mates in London in various bank jobs, trader jobs, all that sort of stuff. And not a single person I speak to has a clue about NFTs. So when you see all these headlines, of people buying, tweets for $2 million, etc., that I agree is absolutely crazy, in my opinion. However, NFTs I think is going to change everything from stocks to property to land investing. Like what David said about having a 24/7 crypto stock market is already happening. If you look at what Binance are doing with their I think they're calling them stock tokens. So what they first did it with Tesla. So Tesla is, call it, I don't know, $700, and you can only buy, the lowest unit of Tesla is one Tesla share. And so a lot of smaller investors can't buy, even one Tesla share. And so what Binance have done is they're basically, in essence, it's a derivative. So they're taking, Tesla, and they're chopping up a Tesla stock into a whole bunch of tinier parts, and it's completely fully backed by the underlying asset. And so they're calling it, I think, a stock token. I think they've branched out. Well, I did a little Google last time. So they're doing Coinbase, they've done Microsoft, MicroStrategies, Tesla, and Apple, and they're adding to the list. So you also get benefits like divvies if you hold it, but you don't have any voting rights because obviously you don't own the stock. And that's basically what an NFT is. But where I see NFTs really seeping into the real world, where I think the public will eventually find out, is where, I guess, small business finance and property. I mean, there's no reason why you can't chop up your house into, say, 100 million tokens and then sell chunks of your house. There's no reason for that. And then you can take it one step further and say, look, I've got a small business. I want to chop up my business into, 1 million tokens and then float that to my local community. Now, when we're talking about, like, the average IPO typically takes, 3 years and $3 million, all goes down into legal fees, etc. And so smaller business owners like myself, just like floating a small business is out of, a lot of people's reach. So this is where I think NFTs could really help even the tiniest of micro businesses. So for example, if you're a local coffee shop owner, for example, you're never going to IPO your business, but what that person could do is, chop up their business or basically tokenize their business, sell it to their local community. Or even if let's say the coffee shop owner needed, a 10 grand fancy coffee machine or whatever it is, the way he could effectively crypto crowdfund that or NFT crowdfund that. So he would raise the £10,000. That would then go straight to the manufacturer. So it would all be on a DLT of some sort. And the coffee machine is then delivered to the coffee shop, but it's most likely got some sort of IoT, Internet of Things. So and you can probably input the margins and let's say the coffee machine makes £1 profit per coffee made. Well, the profit will then be distributed in real time to all of the token holders that help crowdfund that coffee machine until it's fully paid off plus interest. And so what's happened is that the coffee shop owner's now got a fancy new machine, crowdfunded in seconds, or not, probably not seconds, but crowdfunded in no time at all, and hasn't had to, dip his hands in his pockets, and it's just the coffee pays itself off. So that, like, there's so many different things, and like, I've got a friend who owns a lot of art, and it's mind-boggling how much it costs to store art. As in, he's got chunky art, and he, a lot of these freehold art places are, in airports and ports and stuff like that, and there's lots of tax things that go around it. But like, another way, I see another sort of thing that some people could buy NFTs of art and therefore bypass the storage and the tax. So I've been chatting with him, and he knew nothing about NFTs, and I was just talking about it, and like, I could see his eyes light up when I
You're right. The list is endless of what you can do with these fungible tokens. You can monetize pretty much everything, really.
You can tokenize, monetize anything you want, no matter how small you are. And like, if you go back 70 odd years ago and look at the UK stock market, there were dozens and dozens of stock markets, dozens. There were countless. And then over the years, it's all been consolidated now. And now we have, probably 5 or 10 big stock markets in the UK. Whereas what happens with NFTs is, let's say there's a shift in tokenizing your business, etc. There's no reason you can't have the Norwich stock market. Just like what Binance is doing with stock tokens, like every town could have its own mini microcosm of a stock market full of teeny micro businesses, etc. I think it's wonderful.
I mean, it sounds very fascinating that you can, when you were talking about, tokenizing your house or the office space, I could see things like that happening in the future. What do you think the FCA's sort of angle and the markets, and what do you think will come in the future, in the coming months, weeks, years, and with all of this?
So all of this is an inevitability, and I've got a very dim view of the FCA. I'm probably going to get in trouble saying this at some point, but the UK is a Luddite. It's absolutely almost to the point of negligent in terms of revolutionary or game-changing techs. Like, if you look at what Malta's doing, and any of these smaller countries, what are they doing? They're looking after innovative businesses. They're dropping the tax. They're inviting crypto businesses through. So what's going to happen in the long run? Everyone's going to move to Malta, or and other Binance has moved to Malta, and so if you're a small island or country, you need to really be embracing this sort of stuff. And then on the flip side, what do you have in the UK or India? India and the UK have always been really bad when it comes to crypto. Every year they're trying to ban it in some sort. The UK, they've banned the selling of crypto derivatives, which is just silly. It will U-turn eventually. So what will happen is that, the government's like, they do these knee-jerk reactions. We're going to ban the selling of crypto derivatives, etc. And then, the wave is coming. People get left behind, and then eventually they'll be like, oh, okay, we're going to allow it now. And so it's actually just hindering a lot of, the progress of its citizens. And I've had a little, not a run-in. I've been, in the past, I've spoken to the FCA because, and you'd be surprised how little they know about stuff. So when I was talking with them, it was about trading type stuff. They were asking me questions like, what is a candlestick? What is a time frame?
And I'm like, it's process and policy, isn't it? That's the way they work. And, they're just working for a kind of a policy sheet, and they don't even know what's going on in the world. It's just yes, no, binary, allow it, don't allow it. But it's very, so I tell you, so I've written an app, right? And this isn't a sales proposition to anyone, but so my app, so usually what you get is you get news landing in a ticker. So you follow a ticker, it'll be like scan, sell, SCLP. And then what I've decided to do is I've got a patent for stock digestion. And what it does is in the morning, you'll have the entire stock market digested into contract wins, acquisitions, joint ventures, nano caps, micro caps. If I wanted to put this on the stock market, because I know your experience, and this is a bit off topic to your the crypto and the blockchain. But maybe potentially in the future, you could. How would you go about doing something like that? The license a year from the stock exchange is $20K a year. What would you do? SPAC it, or I mean, you've had involvement with this type of thing, haven't you?
I think so. Maybe David has a better answer, but I think at the moment, in your position, it would be to wait until there is a clear and defined NFT market space,
okay.
and then.
Yeah. So I've done a lot of work with this with lawyers in the last week, right? To do anything that relates to a security is illegal unless you go through a licensed dealer.
Yeah.
From the FCA. Totally illegal. Now, Valereum's going through looking at its path, and Gibraltar allow it, provided it goes through special type of regulated securities dealers. Right, but in the UK, it's a no-no. And going back to what Albert, what the FCA's view is, the FCA came out very publicly a little while ago and said they want to ban crypto derivatives. In fact, they have banned it. They had a year of we don't want to do it, and then in February they said it's banned. And now they're
the selling of it.
Correct.
You can still own it though.
You can still own it, but their view is retail is going to get ripped off, and they've even mentioned a number that I read last week that they think that the potential for retail to get ripped off of £56 billion by the whole concept of NFT and crypto derivatives. So they are on the warpath, full stop.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons people go into the likes of the Argo blockchain. They can be involved, and I mean, when you're playing with larger amounts, you've got that ISA allowance as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, I mean, you guys are talking blockchain, not the coin crypto trading currency, but you do have that. You can. So if you've got a good blockchain stock in that space, which some of the ones you talked about, up at Thames and Valereum, which I have actually got a massive position of £50 in right now because I had about 2p in it, and all of a sudden it's worth 50. I cashed it out years ago and I forgot it was in there. And all of a sudden I've just got this £50 in a trading account that I didn't know about. I should have left my funds in there. Then you've got, for me, it's a big thing, the ISA and the tax. And it'd be nice if they could come up with some crypto taxation policy. You could have a crypto ISA, or, you can deal with that. I know we're talking NFT and listed companies, which is, a bit different to all of that stuff.
Jack, just going back to the earlier comment that Albert mentioned, right? Buying into things like Argo. It is not easy to set up a secure crypto wallet, right? I've been going through the process. So it's easier for people to go and buy things like Argo or Valereum because then they've got exposure to the coin price and profitability, ups, down, sideways. And people can trade the volatility of the coin market through a regulated entity that's listed, and you get all the ISA stuff and the tax benefits, particularly if it's AIM or Aquis, because if you hold a stock for long enough, then it's capital gains tax free. So that's why people invest in it, and that's why the market is so hot in the US and Canada. So the corporations go and do the stuff, but people can flip in and out of the equity side depending on how they feel about which side of the fence the company's working on. But try and set up a crypto wallet. It is not easy.
I've got a question for both of you while you're on this, Simon, David, and it's my burning question. It's kind of, you're two people who are in a good position to answer it, I guess. It's the whole crypto gold thing. It's the Bitcoin has taken the position of the hedge against inflation, or hedge against hedge against inflation, hedge against the dollar the weakness in the dollar and the printing and everything. So it seems a lot of the hot money's moved into crypto. We've seen it rise from $10,000 up to 60,000, but we've seen gold drop back from 2,000 to sort of 1,800, 1,750, whatever it is. And we've also seen silver spike on the recent squeeze on silver attempt to $30, and it's just like sitting around. I don't know, it's $25 or something. Will there ever be a point where precious metals have their day again?
Well, I don't think they've gone. I think gold didn't drop off because of Bitcoin going up. Gold dropped off because of Trump and what happened with respect to the US elections. So you had gold run up into the $2,000 range on the basis of uncertainty globally with who was going to win the elections. When the election result came out in America and Biden won, that's when you saw the gold price drop off. Now you're seeing the gold price move up. And just going back to the whole concept of crypto, 95% of the world's crypto money sits in cryptosphere. It doesn't move to what they call the fiat, which is the real world hard currency stuff. And gold is physically hard currency. You know, if you look at the amount of gold that is traded with all of its various derivatives, it's in the trillions a day, right? So gold is hard currency. Most of the crypto money sits in crypto space, and it finds it very difficult to jump from the crypto world into the real world. And just going back to Siam's comments about, Binance, and I've spoken to the company that does that, and I've spoken to Bittrex, I've spoken to Binance, and the company that issues those derivative tokens. Those tokens aren't 100% backed by Tesla shares.
Interesting.
It's a derivative. And what Vinay's putting together is...
They say they're fully backed on Binance.
But they're not.
Interesting.
Because there is no trustee in the middle that says, I actually own all of those shares that they do. And Binance is the biggest crypto market in the world, basically. But, speaking to Bittrex that are the only regulated Bitcoin, token market in the world in Bermuda, and I'm speaking to all the top guys in Luxembourg and in Bermuda. Anybody can issue it, and anybody can say, I have X number of Tesla shares and let's go and tokenize it. But there's no guarantee that stock is actually there to underpin it. And what Vinay's passport wallet is 5 or 6 levels of verification and authentication with an insurance wrapper. And the reason why the insurance wrappers is very important is, and Vinay's doing it with his gold bars out of Singapore, that you say you've taken a token on a kilo of gold out of Singapore and you want to ultimately go and collect it. If it isn't there, the insurance company will pay you the $81,000 US.
Yeah.
Right. And Vinay's view is by securitizing and putting an insurance wrap around it, you're potentially increasing the size of the global insurance business by a factor of 10-fold. And that's the concept that I know Richard's working on with Vinay, is to create, using the Materium Passport wallet with all those levels of verification and authentication with an insurance wrapper. That means that if you do want to go and move from the crypto space into the fiat world, then you're actually buying something that has real value. Now, a lot of the NFTs are things like art. Vinay's got NFTs out on Stradivarius. There aren't many Stradivarius. It's a bit like Bitcoin. There's only going to be 21 million of them or whatever, right? There are only so many Stradivarius. But each one of those machines or pieces of wood has had verification, authentication. That's a very detailed process. And that's where this whole NFT market's going. To go and buy someone's first tweet, that's digital art, right? And there's a big talk at the moment about digital art. What's it worth? That $65 million thing that Christie's did the other week, on digital art. And that's because it's crypto money staying within the crypto space, because they find it very hard to move across. Now, the other thing, we've spoken to some banks in Switzerland, and you can borrow against your Bitcoin holding, but the leverage is 800%. So by putting an insurance wrapper around it, you can get better leverage from your Bitcoin holding to move into the fiat world. And that's where this is all really starting to morph and change. And once that transition happens, people can then move their hot Bitcoin money and Ethereum money into the real world money. And that's going to transform the way things really look. And it's going to happen quicker than people think.
Wow.
So what, David?
But it's putting the
about your
architecture together. Pardon?
What got you into? What made you move into this space?
When I spoke to Vinay Gupta for the first time, I speak to Vinay a lot. And when you listen to the way the market started with Ethereum launching in sort of 2016 and how it's transforming, and the fact that, you've got alternative technologies out there like Kraken and all those things that are really starting to get some wherewithal, you really don't know which of the platforms is going to be top of the wazza. Bitcoin's there in its own little space. You've got Ethereum, which is, one of the largest blockchains, and there are others coming up as well.
I actually worked with the coders from Ethereum in circa 2016. We did a hackathon with the guys and some clever guys down there, but I never thought it would turn into all of this. Else I'd have probably stayed working with them.
Well, and Vinay admits he sold out too soon. Vinay goes, no, the market's stuffed. I've sold out too soon. Virtual reality is the way things are going. Virtual reality is going to be the way things go. But for the last 4 years, Vinay has been totally dedicated on the Ethereum Asset Passport wallet.
So what was your go-to before all of this, and how successful were you in those fields?
My go-to on the blockchain space, none. This was my first.
Sorry. Prior to blockchain, what were your preferred fields there?
Well, I've always been a resources specialist. For those that don't know me, Zach knows me for a long time. One of the biggest things I did here was rebuild Lonrho, the big Pan-African conglomerate, from one hotel in Mozambique to a takeover in 2012. And we raised a lot of money globally to rebuild Lonrho as a Pan-African brand. I was active in the whole Cambrian, and this was when it was OFX and moved to AIM. I did all of that. And Cambrian was developing the big Tumbler Ridge coal project in British Columbia that ended up being taken out for $4.5 billion. So, principally, I suppose my specialty's been resources, but I'm a generalist. My job for the last 15 years has been fixing up companies where fund managers have been long and wrong. Sometimes you can fix them, sometimes you can't. That's what my NQ job's about at the moment, is fixing up NQ as a corporate entity to move it to the main board.
I was taking positions in precious metals last year when I believed COVID crisis was going to end, and the incoming recession and all of this. I was thinking about the cryptocurrencies, and there's some similarities as to put your money into this type of thing. Was that a bit of a driver, the precious metals transition into the crypto? Did you see it as a new invisible precious metal?
Yeah, a little bit. I just think I suppose my main driver was looking at the amount of government debt that the US, $6 trillion in new money. I've been to New York many times, and you go past that big ticker symbol that keeps flashing over. And the last time I was in New York, it was $21 trillion worth of government debt in the United States, right? And then you see Biden's going to issue $6 trillion worth of new stimulus for America. No one's ever going to pay that off. Look at the UK government debt. It was 1.3 trillion pounds. It's probably now 2 trillion pounds. Look at the Euro government debt. The concept of money has completely changed.
Yeah.
Governments just print money because they know that if the currency systems collapse, the world goes to anarchy. No one owns their house. There's no concept of banking. And therefore, the alternative finance things start popping up. That's why gold's important as a physical metal, right? That's why cryptocurrency is important, because people want to diversify their financial portfolios, right? And then going back to copper, because you guys were mentioning you're following a copper stock. I was with a guy in Monaco last night. His brother controlled the world's copper market for Sumitomo in the 80s. Completely squeezed the world's copper market. And this guy is one of the huge global commodity traders here in Monaco. And I said to Ashley, Ashley, what are you focusing? He said, copper, copper, copper. I said, well, it's almost at a record high. He said, it's going higher. I said, why? He said, Dave, the amount of copper required right now, and there's not a lot of stock at the LME, to go and build all this infrastructure doesn't exist. And without copper, lead, zinc, and iron ore, the world can't go and build this infrastructure. And if you can't build infrastructure projects, you can't put the population to work.
Yeah. And it's also being touted as the new oil, or as Kevin likes to say, the green gold. But the thing with copper is people underestimate its uses within the renewable energy space. So for things like EV cars.
Absolutely. I mean, I know a lot about EV cars. You know, I've been actively involved in the Sinovac lithium project in the Czech Republic. You know, I funded all the money that went in, you know, to discover the Bacanora's, you know, Sonora lithium project, the largest hard rock lithium project in the world in northern Mexico.
Yeah.
I've met the Tesla people in Palo Alto. I mean, I did a deal to supply lithium to Tesla. You know, so there is, I think it's 5 times the amount of copper that goes into an EV, right?
Yeah.
Than it goes, or even to a hybrid car that is currently used in an internal combustion engine. But more importantly, it's about the infrastructure that's required for energy storage into the grid to allow these things to get charged. And the other issue that the world hasn't really started to come to terms with is, where are you going to charge all these electric cars? Okay, we're going to charge them up at service stations. The issue with service stations is the electric cable that runs to the service station is like that big.
Yeah.
When you want to run fast chargers to start charging everybody's cars, the electric cable goes to 6 to 8 inches.
Wow.
And that's copper, right? Because it's the amount of amps that are moving along that cable. So you now need to upgrade a whole lot of infrastructure to run EVs, and the Germans and the Americans and the Brits and everybody else are saying, we're not going to have any internal combustion engines, you know, by 2030, 2035. So how are they going to charge all this stuff? So the entire infrastructure needs to be upgraded, and that requires copper, lead, and zinc, and aluminium.
Yeah, I mean, Goldman Sachs put out, I think, not a broker note, but a statement saying they think it's going to hit 15,000 per ton by 2025.
Yeah, and the thing is, the easy copper's gone. You know, the big mines in Chile, you know, Escondida's. And I've been to Escondida. You know?
Kevin and I know of a good. There is a lot of good easy copper in Cyprus at the moment with Caerus Minerals. We talked about them last week.
Yeah, it's good, but I know them very well. But it's not Escondida size. It's a great project, but it's not the size that's going to do, you know, 300,000-400,000 tons a year of copper metal. You know, so, and you've got, and with all this wokeness in the world, to go and get a new project permitted, so Australia's very up there with getting mines going, right? But from discovery to first production in Australia for a mine these days is 8 years.
Yeah.
Right. So where's all this new production going to come from? Escondida can't get much bigger.
Well, I mean, I think the figure you mentioned is the figure we alluded to with Martin last week. We were looking at 500,000 tons a year from the Truly project. So it's copper concentrate. You know, there's no reason why it can't match those figures.
When it's copper concentrate, that's not copper metal.
Yeah.
Right. So that's 100,000 tons a year of copper metal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, look, it's a good sized project. Absolutely. But then you've got to go through the whole regulatory crap, you know, and I don't want to, it's the whole NIMBY thing. I don't want that in my backyard. Not in my backyard, please. You know, and then you've got to build tailings dams. And then the EPA go all over you about what type of tailings dam. And are you going to kill all the fish and the people are all going to get, like Brazil, you know, the tailings dam collapses and everybody dies. The world has become seriously difficult to permit new projects.
Yeah.
But what the banks want is big projects. You know, and I see it with NQ. What do they want? They want Helia because it makes money and it's big. You know, they want Beaconsfield because it's rich and it's deep and it keeps going. You know, banks are prepared to fund big projects, but big projects also take a long time to get going.
What do you think is going to happen? Because there obviously isn't enough copper, regardless of the fact that the copper goes up in value, which is obviously a certainty if there isn't enough of it. But what are they going to do? They're just going to have to put back EV vehicles.
So there is no replacement for copper in the manufacturing sense. What happens is as your price goes up, let's just say the copper price goes from $10,000 to 15,000, right? What happens is it then makes big mines more economic, deeper. So then it's a bit like oil. You know, we were all going to run out of oil in the 1970s. And then the oil price went up, which meant that the deeper oil all became economic. And it's the same thing with copper. You know, Escondida, if the copper price goes up, Escondida will do a huge cutback. They'll go and mine out waste for a kilometre either way, and they'll go deeper. So, but there's always a year or two's lag for that to happen. So as the resource prices go up, old mines come back into flavour, and those old mines restart, and big mines just go deeper. So there's plenty of copper in the world's crust. It's a matter of what price do you need to make it economic. The problem is the problem is the mining industry can't respond at the speed that the market wants it to, and that's why you get things like copper being, you know, $9,900 a ton. And speaking to my mate on the copper side yesterday, one of the big trading houses here, he just says he can see this going up 20% this year alone.
Yeah,
purely because of lack of supply in the LME.
Yeah, and I mean, this is what's happening with Rambler mining as well, is that because the copper price was so low a year or so ago, they were going to go broke. And now they're going to be in a position with no debt and ready to expand to 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 tons of copper a year,
and that's good revenue.
Or 1,000 tons, I should say. So yes, it's all on the economics, and they have vast amounts of copper, but it's how economic is it to get it out the ground is the issue.
And that's the issue. And what happens is your cut-off grade drops. The higher you go, the cut-off grade drops. The other thing that Ashley told me yesterday is, he said, the interesting thing is China is now running short of supply. And I said to Ashley, I said, where are you sending your copper con and copper cathode? He said, America. He said, they can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
And I thought everything went to China. He says, Dave, most of my copper cathode and copper con is going to the United States. He said, the big mills, and he mentioned one which I can't remember. He said, you know, the rolling line is 500 meters long, one of them. They're building two more. And that's for US infrastructure build. Now, America, and for those of you who have been to America, if you look at New York, the infrastructure's old, the bridges are crappy. You know, they don't paint them. They've got, and then you go to Denver, Colorado, and it's all new. America's going to go through this phase where they've got to upgrade their entire infrastructure, including IT infrastructure, and that requires all types of metals. That's why you've got iron ore at a record price, copper at a good price, lead and zinc. Lead's always trailing, zinc's now at a good price. The world hasn't even started on economic recovery yet. I mean, what's the UK's big, you know, infrastructure projects? HS2. Wait till the UK starts building the new tax-free ports. You know, China is just non-stop now. America's going for growth of 10% GDP growth. And a lot of that's going to be infrastructure to create jobs to keep the masses at work, because if you don't get the people to work, there will be anarchy.
Yeah.
And it all spins back to the concept of crypto, because it's all being done with debt. And no one's ever going to default on debt. It just gets more debt. So people are looking for alternatives, because when it does blow up, and there are blow-ups all the time, what do you got that you're going to be able to kill and eat that's not tied to the US dollar or the GBP or the yen or the euro?
Yeah, I think I want to buy a small farm. I live in Egypt. I want to buy a small farm, I think, when this all happens.
Yeah.
Well, they say, don't
because then
silver,
you live off the land.
Yeah, silver and a farm and be self-sufficient is two of the best things. And guns, I mean, because was it the 5Gs or something like that? Gold, gasoline, ground, or whatever they are. But you know, there's a lot of truth in that.
Oh, that's
6G,
the whole
gold,
concept.
guns, ground, gasoline,
That's it.
and generator. Don't forget that.
Generator, yeah.
Generator.
And then girls, 7Gs.
All right, guys. I think we'll just, because we've had a good talk so far. What I'd like to do is just go through each of you, just what you're looking at for next week. I wanted to ask. I had a request for David about Apple on rather. Yeah, that's even better. And maybe he can talk about that as his sort of outlook for next week. But otherwise, going around the lads, and hopefully Albert's fixed his mic. It sounds like he's sort of putting it up his nose at the moment. He probably has put it up his nose. But I'll start off with Siam, because I like his new, fresh approach. He's like half my age as well, I think, probably. So that's even better.
And much better
what are you looking at? Well, he's got hair and everything. What are you looking at, Siam?
In terms of just my general investing?
Yeah, the market. I mean, he's because we had a slightly. Well, I look at Bitcoin the most, I suppose, and I just saw it, just above, it's in the mid 50,000s. But is there any sort of particular event going on? Is there anything to look out for at the moment, or is it we're just happy that things are relatively stable?
Yeah. So in March, I think it was the 3rd of May. 3rd of March. Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy CEO, gave a presentation called Bitcoin for Corporates. And in that session, there were over 7,000 CEOs and CFOs. Now, Michael, he's bought 90,000 Bitcoin the last time I checked, and it's growing. And we've got, Grayscale Investments, they've got over $35 billion of Bitcoin, etc. And so after that session, we then, had 7,000 odd big companies that were somewhat informed. Now, the 1st of May, so what is that, tomorrow? 1st of May, tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
We see the SEC filings come out, and we will see all of the big, listed floated companies that, we can check their balance sheets for digital asset purchases, i.e. crypto, etc. And I think it's only going to take one more big company to allocate some strategic reserves into crypto, and we're going to see another sort of leg up. So, I mean, all of the something like 3 million% growth Bitcoin's done from over the last decade or whatever. That's basically taken the whole crypto world from obscurity to somewhat common knowledge-ish. But the next 5x of growth is going to do far more sort of positive attention than what it's done over the last 10 years. And the thing is, the CEO of Oracle and Elon, they're best buddies. It's highly likely they're about to do something, but I mean, it's just a matter of time until Apple, Amazon, Oracle, IBM, Intel, they just announced that they've put 1% of their strategic reserves into crypto. I mean, Tesla only put 6.5% in, and they bought basically $1.5 billion down at $34,000 Bitcoin. And so I do see things going up, and I take a more chilled out approach with crypto than most people. I call it don't be a crypto dog, because when I started really get into crypto, there was probably only 500 projects on the whole planet. And now when you look at coinmarketcap.com, there's over 9,500 crypto projects. And I've read probably 200-300 odd white papers over the few years. And you start to learn, you start to see a trend. And the common trend is every website and white paper you read of a new crypto project, it's all game-changing blockchain or DLT or DAG that's going to change the world. It's the Ethereum killer, it's the Bitcoin killer, etc. And of course, they're going to say all of that. So I've got a bit of a BS detector now, and I think it's futile trying to keep up with everyday news. It's a full-time job, and when you are fully up to date, you're going to be out of date within a week. So I have turned my own crypto investing, and I basically treat myself like I'm a tracker. So I call it the Kryptonian portfolio. So I've got half of it into solid plays, and then the other half is what I call a smart tracker. So if you go to Masari.io, you can see all of the cryptos there, and you can alphabetize the sectors. So just like with stocks, you have pharma stocks, war stocks, bank stocks, etc. It's the same with crypto. And so all I've done is I've bought the top crypto, the top project in every sector, and I've done it by market cap. So most of my portfolio is billion-dollar projects, minimum. Yes, I've got a tiny shitcoin sort of portfolio. That's just pure gambling. I'm fully expecting that money to have a binary outcome, i.e. go to zero or moon. But I'm completely unattached to that. So yeah, I think next week is going to be interesting to see how, what companies have, dipped their toes in. And the other thing which I do like what Binance is doing. Now, if you're a crypto purist, you're going to hate Binance, and because it's a centralized platform, it's a centralized exchange, yada yada yada. CZ owns it all, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, what do the public care about? They don't give a shit whether something is centralized or decentralized, etc. They care about UI, user interface, user experience. And Binance has done this very well. It's simple to buy, now it's very simple to get crypto, as in your fiat, to GBP or dollars, into the Binance exchange to buy crypto, and then to even stake it. I mean, and I've got probably 80% of my whole portfolio staked, all making anywhere between 10 to 20 odd percent. And they've made it so simple. And the beauty of Binance is that not only is it the fastest growing company in human history, it went from a standing start to $1 billion revenue in 6 months, and it's making over $1 billion per year of profits and growing fast. So you can value it like a normal stock. It's also got its own token, BNB, the Binance token, and obviously the tokenomics that comes with it. And so when you look at the market cap of, say, Ethereum, which is just a smart contract platform, that is all Ethereum is. It's a smart contract platform, breaking it down very simply. That's what something like a $300 billion market cap. Well, whatever Ethereum has in market cap, Binance is going to eat that, because not only is it now launching a Binance Smart Chain, so it's going into the smart contract platform, it's a centralized exchange. They're opening up a decentralized exchange. They're getting into the NFT market space. They're in DeFi. They're properly in the DeFi space, which, by the way, DeFi is going to kill the existing incumbents. I mean, if you look at ICE, Intercontinental Exchange, they've been going for 20, 30 years. They own pretty much most exchanges in the US, Chicago Stock Exchange, NYSE, all that sort of stuff. They've spent 20 odd years, and I think the last time I checked, they've made something like $600 million profit per year. And then you see Coinbase pop up out of nowhere, makes pretty much the same profit in its first year or two. You then see it, IPOing, and all of a sudden it's bloated in terms of value. And then you look at Binance, what they're making over the year in no time at all. And so the incumbents are like, holy crap, we've got to do something here. So this is why you see rumors of the NASDAQ, rumoring that they're going to sell crypto at some point. Whether they do or don't, I don't actually care. So as you can probably tell, I am pretty bullish on Binance and a few other things. But ultimately, it's best to be completely emotionally disconnected to it all, because I don't think we have the Google of the crypto space yet. I mean, if you look at Facebook sort of effectively was founded 2005, 2006. That was a good 5-6 years after the tech bubble popped. And we haven't, and so I don't think the Google, the Facebook of the crypto world is here. So when I'm looking at Binance or Ethereum or whatever, I'm looking at them through the lens of, so these are the Kodaks and the Nokias for the moment. And I think at some point, they're going to be knocked off. And I mean, look at Ethereum. So they started off 2015. They raised $19 million to get it going. And when you listen to the founders like Vitalik and Charles Hoskinson, etc., they had no clue that Ethereum would do what it is doing right now. They had no idea. And Charles Hoskinson even said they were completely bemused at how fast it grew. And Charles Hoskinson, he was the co-founder of it all. He was saying that they built their DApp platform with, limited growth in mind, and then all of a sudden exploded. So what Ethereum has basically been doing over the last couple of years is gaffer taping add-on after add-on after add-on. And it's like taking a Ford Fiesta and trying to soup the hell out of it. Whereas what we're seeing right now with a lot of new up-and-coming DApp, or smart contract platforms, is that they're built with the end in mind. So if you look at Cardano, they're built with the end in mind. They're not having to gaffer tape anything together. If you look at Solana, I mean, and a lot of these new DLTs like DAGs, so directed acyclic graphs, they have, a lot of these have solved the trilemma. I'm not, in case you don't know what the trilemma is, the trilemma is you can be really safe, and so you have security, throughput or output, so transactions per second and scalability, so scalability, and then you have speed. And typically, what you could have two of the three, but you can't have all three. And so, since 2016 to 2018, they're having new projects are having to choose two of the three. But now, when you have when you look at some of the DAGs out there, like Tangle that IOTA uses, or Hashgraph, like they've solved it. And you have infinite scalability, infinite TPS, and it's the way forward. And not only, and I think so my last thing before I'll be quiet. I don't want to hog the mic. We are literally sitting on the cusp of a tsunami of tech revolutions, all converging into one focal point over this decade. Now, back in sort of the 90s, we had one tech that was about to go stratospheric, and that was the internet. And look at what the internet's done to the world. We can't live without it. But now we have at least about probably 7 to 10 techs, all as big as the internet, all converging and about to explode in the space of a decade. 3D printing, robotics, genetics, so CRISPR, genetics, crypto, IoT, or Internet of Everything. And so if you just take, the Internet of Everything, we're going to have trillions, probably estimated 10 to 30 trillion smart devices all connected to each other, all talking to each other and doing microtransactions to each other. Well, when they start doing microtransactions, the current financial system can't handle that output. It's impossible. They cannot scale to that level, whereas a DAG can. So the more I learn, the more I don't know. Like, I'm just completely dumbfounded every day. And it's just such an amazing time to be alive. It really is. So yeah, although we've had a bit of a calamity over the last couple of years, I think from sort of 2023 onwards, it's going to be another roaring 2000s or 2020s. Pretty much anything you touch.
I think that probably the late 60s was a great time to be alive. I'm not quite sure we're quite in the same league at the moment. But we landed on the moon, and we actually literally went to the moon rather than actually talking about cryptocurrencies going there. But fantastic.
Elon will be there in 2 years, by the way.
Yeah. They'll be on Mars as well. On today, we're with Apollon.
I don't want to say too much on Apollon because I'm an insider. I'm off the board of Apollon. Dr. Barnhill and his team are now on. From my experience, when you do an RTO, the last thing you want to do is potentially announce something that's earth-shattering on the basis that why didn't you put it into the prospectus? So, I'm excited about Apollon. I'm a bit disappointed the price has fallen. It is Aquis, but Aquis is getting more interesting. But I would suggest that it won't be that long before some quite significant medical advancement on the Apollon side. But I don't want to say any more because I am an insider. So I'll just leave it at that. I haven't sold a share. I was a big shareholder before the RTO. I'm now a lot smaller shareholder. I'm no longer on the board. But it's up to the Dr. Barnhill team. But just going back to what Siam was saying, Siam, I don't know if you saw that on April 28th, the European Investment Bank, the EIB, has raised 100 million euros from a 2-year digital bond with respect to blockchain technology. Now, when you start seeing governments and government-related banking entities start getting into the blockchain, it's becoming too big to fail.
I agree.
Right? And you mentioned things like Cardano. I mean, speaking with Vinay, who's probably one of the most up-to-date on blockchain in the world, the platforms that are there now aren't the ones that are going to be the Apples or the Googles. A lot of my fund manager mates in New York think Cardano is probably ahead of the curve. Vinay thinks they're doing pretty well. They're still all using a lot of the Ethereum platform, but there are new platforms being developed. And I agree with you. I don't think we're seeing the Apples or the Googles of the crypto world yet. And there hasn't
Yeah.
even been the
Too
concept,
early.
and there hasn't even been the concept of corporate consolidation yet, right? You've got a number of players all running along. Vinay's view is nobody has the secure platform yet that you can actually say, I've bought that with my crypto and I physically own this in the real world. And Vinay thinks that's the golden goose. You know, Binance has done a phenomenal job, right? Bittrex is doing a great job. You know, but most of the blockchain trades, 70% are still in China. The reason why Binance is important is because it's got so big, so quick, and you can access a huge crypto market of investors. Bittrex is struggling, even though they've got lots. They're growing fast, but Binance has just wiped them.
It's because they're US based. They're based in Vegas, and so they've got their hands tied behind their back. They
Correct.
can only list so many things, etc.
Correct.
So, yeah.
But you know, what am I looking at this week? I think talk my own book because I'm passionate about it. I think you're going to see some very good activity starting into Valereum, particularly with the US move. I saw what happened to KR1 when they got their US stuff. I think NQ will start getting more attractive in the coming weeks as the market activity on Aquis itself improves. And, hopefully we get to the main board, and then I think it's a kick in the park on a re-rate, but, that's still some time to go. I see copper going through $10,000 in the next 2 weeks, and there'll be a big push into copper. And I see gold going back into the 1900s, and people will go, well, the gold price didn't collapse. So I think there's some interest all around. I mean, I looked at all my screen this morning and said, you know what, there's a fairly good vibe around the market, and the world just needs to feel good to invest. I mean, Biden's talk, whether you think he's a dithering old fool or not, he is being very presidential. And I watched his talk this morning. He wants to make America great by spending. And it's been a long time since America spent money on the right things. And if people feel confident, people will invest confidently. So I see a whole lot of sectors doing well.
Yeah.
Should we go to Kevin, yeah?
Why not? Quick, this week, we were going to talk a little bit, but it's gone on and on and on tonight, but it's been extremely interesting. Thanks, guys. It really has opened my eyes as well into the whole NFT crypto thing. But we were going to talk just a little bit about shorting and how morally acceptable it is or whatever, but I think we'll leave that for another week. But anyway, on the markets, I was very pleased to see Zoetek come out fighting today. It's been hammered by shorts for the last number of months, but seems like the game is nearly up. So hopefully within the next period of time, that's going to happen, that it goes back to all-time highs. I'm very bullish about RMM, copper. Very bullish about CMRS, copper. Yeah, and I have increased my holding this week in Valereum. Might even increase it again now that I understand it a little bit more, which is good. That's me really. Portfolio overall, I think it was down a little bit, but that was mainly because Zoetek was attacked. Let me think just off the top of my head. Yeah, and still, my health check has got to happen. We've all got to fly. We've all got to buy PCR tests. Eventually, it's going to rocket. I'm finished.
Okay, on to Albert, if he's got his mic properly geared and not up his nose.
Yeah, I've had an absolutely cracking week. I mentioned last week, keep your eyes on Deep Verge. I said that they were going to get water news. I don't think the market understands it, but they've just done a JV with China Resources, which have a 60 billion revenue, and they own all of the sewage systems in China. I don't think investors or traders understand it yet, but the COVID water surveillance is going to be a preventive pandemic. It's a proactive, preventative pandemic blocker. It's not understood yet, but it's one for the future. Also, I inflated another position tranche in SCLP, the dual spike protein that targets the NNS protein. I mentioned that one last week. I took another tranche of that today. I've got a large position there now. And then today, Diggins took another 400,000 shares. He was one of the directors. FUM got CE approval. So I've been sitting on my hands for the last 8 weeks. I've done about 4 trades in 8 weeks. And it's nice that when you have the idea and all this stuff starts flaring up and going off. I've not touched I'm not touching resources at the minute. I think it's too early for me, because I touch resources, incoming recession, and the crypto thing's a bit too binary for me. I appreciate everyone doing it. I hope everyone does well. But I just feel like I'm a bio bull still. And what else came in this week? I think SNG, very strange today. The best antiviral drug. It's got a 3-to-1 chance that if you take this drug at home, you'll survive over someone that doesn't take the drug. And it's the only self-administered antiviral on the planet. But I think there was some traders that got toasted trying to get out. So I've had a cracking week, and I will continue to hold my bio bull positions. I've trimmed half a SPAC off. I've sold out my cybersecurity position because I don't think there's sentiment for it at the minute. But I'll probably buy back in if it dips. And I'm just in the full bio bull at the minute. But yeah, great week, lovely. Just need some sunshine to come out for the rest of the bank holiday.
Rounding off with Phil.
Yeah, so I've been out in a position this week in EME, Empyrean Energy. They're an oil and gas development company. They've got interests in China, Indonesia, and the US. And an RNS came out, which I felt was largely missed by the market. The fact that they're planning the drilling on one of the prospects, the Jade prospects in China. And they're working with a company called Acre, who are a part of the AGR team. So there's probably going to be some sort of funding coming in, or a joint venture agreement on it. But basically, if you look at the field that they're working in China, it's next. They've got 3 prospects. You've got Jade, Topaz, and Pearl, and they're planning the Jade drill, and it's right next to a 1 billion barrel oil field, in very close within the sort of 50-kilometer proximity to it. So that's one that I'm starting to build. It seems quite undervalued at what it is. One of the directors has got it's the whole skin in the game thing. The CEO has got something like 25% of the company. And a lot of the board of directors have got a lot of the shares, so it's quite tightly held. It's kind of under the radar, but that's the one that that's my one for the week to watch.
Well, okay. I think on that note, it might be a good time to call it quits. We've had a marathon session. Thanks to everyone, and hopefully people will enjoy the podcast as it goes out on Sunday.
Thanks a lot. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you for listening. Remember to visit our website for more news and other podcasts at www.share-talk.com.